We wish you a pleasant mood and hope you enjoy our content. Today's story is about Nikita and Ksenia, who have been married for 5 years. Recently, Nikita got promoted and began working long hours, often going on business trips. Although these trips brought good money to their town, Ksenia felt unhappy about spending so much time apart from her husband. She missed his attention and companionship, and sometimes Nikita was so tired from work that he was completely exhausted. There was little opportunity for Ksenia and her colleagues to catch up on life and share their daily experiences. However, Ksenia's routine was disrupted when a new coworker, Vich, joined her team through Chislav's recommendation. Vich was a young man full of energy who immediately showed a keen interest in Ksenia. Despite being happily married, Ksenia appreciated the attention and enjoyed getting to know Vich. Over several months, they talked and discovered that Vich was not only charming, but also a deeply interesting person. Nevertheless, Ksenia was mindful of her marital status and did not allow their conversations to become too intimate or inappropriate. Their communication through social media became increasingly frequent, and their conversations gradually became more personal and intimate. When Ksenia's husband went on another business trip, she found herself at home on her day off feeling bored with nothing to do. So, she turned to Vich for company, who always managed to lift her spirits. As they chatted, Ksenia complained about her boredom, and Vich suggested that they go to the movies together to watch a funny comedy that would cheer her up. "Would you like to come with me?" he asked. The woman hesitated for a while before responding to Vich's message, wondering how it would appear to others if a married woman went to the movies with another man. Despite her reservations, Ksenia rationalized that they were simply being friendly, and that Vich was just trying to rescue her from a dull evening. Thus, she accepted his invitation. During the outing, Vich acted like a gentleman and respected her boundaries. After the movie, they strolled through the park for a while, and then Vich offered to accompany Ksenia home. As they arrived at her house, it was already late in the evening. Half-jokingly, Vich asked if he could be invited in for some tea, and Ksenia, being a hospitable person, agreed. However, this turned out to be a mistake on her part. Once inside, Vich noticed a bottle of wine on one of the shelves and suggested they drink it to end the evening on a good note. After a few glasses of wine and some not-so-friendly conversation, Vich began showering Ksenia with compliments and even tried to embrace her. Vich continued to compliment Ksenia, telling her how beautiful she was and how he had fallen in love with her at first sight. He even mentioned how much he had been looking forward to meeting her. At some point, Ksenia's heart began to flutter. She missed hearing those kinds of words from her husband, who was always away for work. As she drank more wine and heard more sweet talk, she gradually let her guard down. Before she knew it, everything happened right there in her and her husband's apartment. The next morning, Ksenia woke up to find herself in bed with someone else, and she was filled with horror as the realization of what had happened hit her. What she had done, how she could do this to her husband. She'd been sitting in the kitchen for a long time staring. At one point when Slava finally woke up and came to her, but instead of a kiss and a good morning, she unexpectedly heard that all last night Ksenia considered it a mistake. She was very sorry that all this had happened. "You just tell your husband about it and go to my place," the man said sincerely, not understanding what could have changed overnight. "No, I can't just go, please," she replied. For the next 2 weeks, Ksenia nullified all communication with her colleague. She was overwhelmed with guilt towards her husband and only now realized how much she loved and cherished him. Upon Nikita's return from a business trip, she couldn't find happiness with him. Instead, she became more attentive to him, expressing her love constantly. She made the decision to never confess her infidelity to him as she knew it would cause him immense pain, but that was no longer her decision to make. One day, upon returning from work, Ksenia found her husband in the kitchen with a shot glass and a stack of papers in front of him. As soon as she entered the room, her wife sensed that something was amiss. Her heart started racing with anxiety. Initially, she thought it could be work-related, but as she got closer, she noticed a stack of printed correspondence with a colleague, topped with a printed photo. The picture showed a half-naked Ksenia peacefully asleep in bed on the night she cheated on her spouse. The colleague couldn't tolerate Xenia's behavior and decided to reveal everything to her husband. It's hard to describe the emotions that Nikita felt at that moment. He was taken aback when he noticed a large envelope on his apartment doorstep. He hadn't been anticipating any packages. With a sense of curiosity, he opened it, but the first thing he pulled out was a printed photo of his wife. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. He hurriedly made his way to the kitchen and sat down at the table. He began going through the rest of the envelope's contents, which consisted of a considerable number of pages. However, by the time he reached the third page, he couldn't continue reading. He retrieved a bottle of strong alcohol from the cabinet and proceeded to read through all the correspondence between his wife and her lover. As he was finishing up, she returned home and discovered her husband sitting there. Nikita remained mostly silent while his wife tried to explain and ask for forgiveness. It seemed as if he wasn't even listening to her, his mind consumed with questions like why? Why did everything have to be like this? It wasn't until his wife's inappropriate sobs became unbearable that he spoke up in a somber tone, telling her to pack her things and leave immediately. "I have nothing left to say," declared Xenia, falling silent before retrieving her suitcase with a tearful expression. The man didn't stop her and spent a lot of time reflecting on the situation. Eventually, he came to the realization that this course of action wasn't helpful. The marriage was beyond repair. He wasn't ready to forgive his spouse, nor did he think he ever could, leading him to file for divorce. Fortunately, Xenia had the presence of mind not to fight for what was rightfully hers and instead kept her distance from her cheating spouse. Nikita refrained from seeking revenge against Xenia. He deemed revenge to be a pitiful and unworthy use of his precious time. After all, his unfaithful wife would have to live with the fact that her infidelity was exposed, and her reputation was forever tarnished. Who would want her after that? This is a story from Life Shared Income, a two-story what? I was still in my first year of college when I was sent to visit my Aunt Galia at her dacha for the summer. Although, as one of my friends would say, it was more like a countryside cottage than an actual house. In short, Galia, or Galina Ivanova, was a beautiful woman known for her slender legs, thin waist, and flawless complexion. Auntie was also a blonde with a short haircut that only enhanced her already stunning features. It was impossible for me to walk next to her without feeling self-conscious. I frequently heard rumors of her bringing different men back to her house. One day, I decided to take a steam bath. In the evening, I filled up the sauna and lost myself in thought. After a few minutes, my mind became occupied with thoughts of future plans and attempts to solve an integral equation. Suddenly, my thoughts shifted to Aunt Galia and how attractive she looked. I began to indulge in fantasies until I was startled by Aunt Gala's voice. I opened my eyes to see Galina Ivanovna standing at the doorway of the bathhouse. I immediately blushed and asked, "What are you doing here? Were you not taught to knock?" She approached me slowly and responded, "And I thought you were well-mannered." You know, I'm not well-mannered either. I was taken aback by the suddenness of it all. Aunt Galia was staring at me intently with a look of interest, and I began to realize what she was hinting at. "You're a very attractive young man," she said, moving even closer. I stared at her with wide eyes, wanting to say something but choosing to trust her instead. The kiss alone made me tremble with excitement, and I grew even more tense as we continued. It was scary at first, but eventually I relaxed and the experience became more enjoyable. After it all came to an end, my aunt got up, smiled, and left, leaving me sitting on the bench in a state of confusion. It felt like a dream or a passing thought, but as time went by, it began to repeat itself over and over again, making me realize that it was my perfect reality. As I grew older, I saw my aunt less frequently due to new responsibilities, jobs, and relationships with other women. She became jealous of me, even though she had her own men in her life. I did not understand what we should do next, whether there was a reasonable way out of this situation. After all, we could not be together. It is already clear no one would understand us, and many would stop communicating with us. To go to a psychologist with this topic is not possible either. No one will call you normal. All in all, I am confused, and how things will work out in my life next, I do not know.